Hello, chefs. This is Chef's PSA Podcast. I'm your host, André Natera. On today's episode, my guest is Evan LeRoy. He's one of the first chefs to receive a Michelin star for barbecue at his restaurant, LeRoy Lewis in Austin, Texas. He's really going to break down barbecue in this episode. Stay tuned.
Man, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so for people that are listening, I was just there
Yeah.
The other day with Jacob, and I got to tell you, the meat was fantastic.
Thank you.
Well deserving of Michelin stars.
Appreciate that.
But I think what really blew me away was all the sides.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected.
Yeah.
And everything was phenomenal. You had, I'm trying to think, like the chorizo potatoes.
Yeah, choy pops.
Were really excellent. The burger you made was excellent.
Yeah.
The pickles were great. The Frito pie, everything was really good.
Yeah.
And I guess my question to you is, running a barbecue restaurant, how did you set yourself up to be different from everyone else? Because there's a lot of noise, especially in Austin, Texas. You know, big barbecue culture.
Yeah.
Was that intentional? You know,
Very much so.
Yeah. Can you tell us about it?
Very, very much so. People ask us all the time, like, what separates you guys from the rest of the barbecue community? And the short answer is everything.
Yeah.
But we start with the meat. Barbecue's all about the meat. We start with the meat. I have worked at a bunch of barbecue restaurants, and in doing that, you're unpacking boxes and boxes and boxes of beef and pork, and I'm just asking myself, where's this stuff coming from? And I, at the same time that was happening, saw farm to table movement happening, saw everybody in the nice restaurants that I wanted to go to, that I wanted to work at, sourcing their meats from local ranches and farms, and I didn't see anybody in barbecue doing that. So that's where we start from. When sourcing that meat, you can't always get the amount or the cuts that you would think of when you think about barbecue. So you have to adapt and you have to try different things. And then that opens up the entire box to just kind of have fun with it. And to me, barbecue is basically a framework, right? It's a menu, it's a method, not a menu. That's what I say all the time. It's a method of cooking, smoked meat over fire, and then like kind of scoopable picnic style sides. That's basically the framework. And anything can fit into that, any cuisine, any meat, even vegetables, everything.
So, specifically looking at your sides, what was the thought process? And the reason I ask is because the sides on their own.
Yeah.
And by the way, you also did like a tiramisu with banana.
Yeah.
It was fucking excellent.
That one's good.
Yeah, it was really good. So I was with Jacob and we were like fighting. I was like, I'm going to take that one home. Yeah. Like, fuck you, man. I'm taking that one.
Yeah.
But it was really excellent. And I guess my question is like, what is your process to come up with those? And I will say this, like those sides could be found in the best restaurants, like as a part of a complete dish in any of the best restaurants. They were excellent. They were perfectly seasoned, well balanced.
Thank you.
Huge amount of flavor. The chorizo with the potatoes.
Yeah.
Like the chorizo alone was like, wow, that's mind blowing. It was so good. So what's the process to come up with the sides? Like, what's the story behind that?
So it's two things. There's using everything that we have left over. If you're trimming meat, then it just creates a bunch of scraps. We kind of hitched our wagon to beef cheeks, but beef cheeks, if you trim them out, there's like 60% trim and 40% like servable, sliceable, nice medallion. So we have all this extra kind of really stringy, fatty, tissuey meat that we grind up and braise in the oven and then make chorizo out of that. We make chili out of that. We just had to find spots for all this extra ground meat. Combine that with me growing up and my grandparents making choy papas for us for breakfast on Saturday mornings, throw a fried egg on top. It's something that is just pure nostalgia hit for me.
My dad used to make that for me too.
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of where that stuff come from.
Your cooking was like my dad's cooking.
Yeah.
So it like took me right back.
That's
it was
good.
great.
That's
Yeah, it was great. So for people that are brand new to barbecue, let's start with the basics. Like basic barbecue 101. Let's start with the meat.
Yes.
When selecting the meat, what are some of the most important qualities that you're looking for? And so I guess my first question would be specifically on the meat is like, you talk about local farms and ranches, but like Does it matter if it's Wagyu, Prime, Choice, Select,
100%.
Angus? Like, what is the best thing for barbecue?
So I would say probably Prime, Wagyu, Choice. Like those are all going to be good barbecuing cuts. Like you can barbecue anything. It kind of started as, something. Let's try to get some inexpensive piece of meat. Let's try to get this Select brisket and try to kind of make some magic out of it. But now all of the kind of top places are sourcing really well. They're at least using Prime or upper 2/3 Choice. A lot of them are using branded beef and Wagyu, and we're kind of using a combination of all those. We use Heart Brand Beef, which is an Akaushi breed. We use Dean and Peeler, which is Angus, but they're local to Texas. And then we use another ranch called Laureen Farms, where we get quarters of beef that we break down in-house.
And so, so now we discussed the beef. Now, what about the pork? Like when you're selecting pork, what are you looking for? Like for excellent barbecue.
Yeah. Mostly people are going to be talking about ribs when you're talking about pork or pork butt.
Yeah.
Pork butts, as far as commodity butts, a lot of them are the same. A lot of them are just that square shape you see in the supermarket. Everybody recognizes those. As far as pork ribs go, if you're looking for pork ribs in a supermarket, I would look for like a nice big rack that has a lot of meat on it. It's not really thin. Sometimes you can see there's ribs like shining through on top. That's really not what you want. We don't really even bring in pork ribs in the case. We just bring in half hogs from a local ranch South Texas called Peaceful Pork.
Yeah.
And so we butcher out these belly-on spare ribs and then cure them like bacon and then double smoke them. So it's like a big bacon rib. It's super, super good.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talk pork, we talk beef. Now, when we talk the seasoning process, how important is that? I mean, I'm looking at Franklin, like I saw his master class. He's like salt and pepper only. But is that pretty standard? Is that kind of what everyone does, or is there stuff that like that's what we talk about, but behind the scenes there's a lot of shit no one talks about?
So it's a combination. It depends on the barbecue place. We only use salt and pepper on a lot of things, but it's Diamond Crystal and it is 16 mesh black pepper because it's got like that kind of grit to it. It's got like a little bit bigger of a chunk to it. Other people use different things. I know Lowry's is very popular right now. A lot of people put different spices in their rubs, but in my opinion, beef just really only needs salt or salt and pepper, depending on the cut. And then pork you can kind of go crazy with, but since we cook half hogs with the skin on, we just put a little bit of salt on them, and then the seasoning comes afterward in the form of like a sauce, kind of like a Carolina vinegary sauce.
And then we talk about the smoker. Does the type of smoker matter?
Oh, big time.
So for people that don't, like, when you say big time, I saw your eyes light up.
Yeah. So I could sit here and talk about
talk
just
about
smokers forever.
Geek out on it.
So we have an offset smoker. We have two offset smokers.
Explain what that means for people that are listening.
An offset smoker is the kind of traditional thing you'll see in Texas. It looks like they usually are decommissioned propane tanks. That have a firebox on one side, a cook chamber in the middle, and then a smokestack on the end. Okay. And then that is a traditional offset. You can, from there, go to reverse flow, which is kind of the same setup, but you have your firebox on one side and the smokestack on the same side. And so the smoke goes under, and there's a plate underneath where the racks are, and it kind of goes back, and it goes out. So that's supposed to even out the temperature.
Okay.
I don't really like a reverse flow because all that stuff drips on that plate, and then the fire goes underneath it, and it starts like burning, and so it doesn't make a very good taste, in my opinion. A lot of people make really good barbecue on reverse flow smokers. There's obviously like a pellet grill and like a ugly drum and kind of Weber kettle, like there's all that kind of stuff, but that's mostly like backyard kind of cookers. We also have a direct heat smoker, which involves just burning wood down to coals, and then we will shovel the live orange coals right underneath the hog pieces or the chickens, and so that fat drips down and kind of makes like it vaporizes and makes a much lighter, like a grill flavor tasting smoke, rather than the offset smoker has more of like a wood smoke, because that's the smoke that you're cooking with, the wood from burning logs.
And about how hot, are you smoking a mixed set of meats? Like, are you smoking your briskets with your pork, with your beef cheeks, with your chickens all at the same time, or are you cooking them different temperatures?
So we do
smokers. Does that flavor cross-pollinate, so to speak?
Yeah. We put the briskets and the flat irons and the cheeks on the same smoker, the offset. They all get pretty much the same rub. And we start pretty low and then bring the temperature up, kind of like cooking a potato in water. We want to bring everything up together. And then the direct heat, that starts pretty hot because we want to put as much heat onto the pig as possible before it starts dripping and rendering a bunch of fat, and that can cause a fire. So it's kind of the opposite. With the briskets and the beef, we start low and then bump it up. With the pork and the chicken, we kind of start high and then it goes down.
But you don't commingle them.
No, we don't, because we do a little bit of different temperatures, and they're different pits that produce that cook very differently.
Yeah.
Like the offset is a horizontal, it's almost like a convection cooker. And then the direct pit is direct heat. It's direct radiant heat from those coals. It's almost like a grill.
Got it. And so I would say probably the most popular thing, especially when I think of Texas barbecue, is brisket. Right?
Yeah.
Are you a believer in wrapping the brisket, or you don't wrap the brisket?
So we do a specific type of wrap called a foil boat.
Okay.
You know, this is always like, people would always ask the question, do you wrap in foil, do you wrap in paper? And they're two different things.
Can you explain like why they're different?
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So a paper, you know, when you wrap a brisket in butcher paper, it's a little bit porous. It breathes. It can let some of that like liquid and fat out, but it also is saturated with that, and it will hold it onto the meat, and so it'll stay a little bit moist. If you wrap completely in foil, you're essentially like putting it in a pot and closing the lid. It's creating steam. It's going to steam that brisket. Everything's going to get really soft. You're going to hold every piece of moisture right against that meat. So what we do is take the top of the foil and kind of crimp it around so the top stays crunchy. It's a crunchy fat cap, just like on a steak, or just like on, you know, if you eat like a crunchy piece of pork belly that gives way to really nice rendered melty pork fat. It's kind of the same idea. If you get that nice crunchy bark that we're known for, and then that rendered fat, and then that silky meat, that's the reason we do the foil boat, because it keeps the top open, higher heat, and then it holds just enough juices on the bottom or the lean side to keep it moist.
And does it matter which side you're cooking your brisket?
Very much so. If you put the brisket fat side down, you know, there's no fat on top to protect anything. The lean side is just going to get hammered by heat, and then the fat side is just going to get like smushed. Once it renders, like the weight of it is just going to like smush down. So
Okay, so you want to cook it fat side up.
fat side up most of the time. I would say if I were cooking a brisket on a direct heat cooker where the heat is coming from the bottom up, I would start it fat side down, because I want to cook some of that before I flip it over. Because if you flip it and then start to cook or if you cook it lean side down, you're never going to get enough heat on the top side, on the fatty side, to actually render everything out.
When you think about like different states, like I have a chef's PSA. It's like no matter how good your barbecue is, you know, someone else says their neighbor says theirs is better. Right?
Yeah.
Right? Like fuck your barbecue, man.
Yep.
Mine's better.
Yep.
But states are the same way, right? So like you got very distinct styles. You know, you have Texas barbecue, and does Texas have different like is Dallas barbecue different from Austin?
I would say a little bit.
Little differences.
I would say a little bit. I would say, I mean, it kind of reflects the culture of the city. I think Austin is a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more, you know, into doing kind of funky different stuff, which is why I think LeRoy Lewis works here. I don't think it could work in Dallas or Houston or, frankly, anywhere else.
Right.
But, yeah, I think they kind of like follow that. As far as the states go, there's really only one state to talk about, and that's Texas, man.
But what are some of the differences? Like, what are some key distinct differences between, like, Carolina, KC, Texas? Like, what makes those different? Why is it not all the same?
Yeah. So that's pretty much going back to, like, history of barbecue, right? Okay. Barbecue starts in the Caribbean with the Taino people who are, you know, digging pits in the ground and shoveling coals in there and cooking, like, pigs and chickens and goats and sheep kind of like over these coals. That kind of migrates to the American South, you know, the southeastern United States, where slaves, you know, essentially blow up this entire cuisine and like make it into an enormous thing, and it travels out through the entire United States.
Yeah.
It intersects with the cattle trade that's going on in Texas and the German immigrants that have moved there at the same time in kind of the mid-1800s. And then you start to have smokehouses like Black's Barbecue, Kreitz Market, all these kind of like little towns have their own meat markets, and that's kind of how you get Texas barbecue. Mm-hmm. As far as the differences in the cuisines go, Carolina style, when I was talking about the direct heat, that's like their thing. That's how they cook. That is, they cook direct heat, pork shoulders or whole hogs, and to make pulled pork. If you just say, hey, I want some barbecue, you're going to get pulled pork. Texas is obviously like beef centric. Mm-hmm. You have the Holy Trinity, brisket, ribs, sausage. And then pretty much everywhere you're going to go, you're going to get the basic sides, which are like beans, coleslaw, potato salad. Memphis is known for like dry rubbed ribs. I don't really know that there's any like really good places that are doing that in Memphis now. One of our team members actually just moved up there, and it's like doing like pop-up stuff. Mm-hmm. And then what else is there? Carolina, Texas, Kansas City. Kansas City is kind of like more sweet sauce focused. It's more like sauce focused. We get people in the restaurant from Kansas City and they're just like, what about this sauce? What about that sauce? I'm like, it's on the side. Just like eat the meat. And then the sauces are good, but they're meant to be, an accoutrement.
Yeah, let's talk about sauce for a second. Yeah. Should it have sauce? And like if someone really wants to appreciate barbecue, should they should eat the meat and then sauce, or should they just not even touch the sauce and just appreciate the meat? Or is it just like, who cares? No rules.
When I'm looking at a composed plate of barbecue, when I'm looking at a tray, I'm looking at everything on it. You said yourself, like at the restaurant, the meat was really good. The sides were like really,
and
really
so was
awesome.
The sauce, by the way.
Barbecue used to be this thing where it was just like, oh, the meat is good, but you're going to get some scooped potato salad from a bucket from U.S. Foods. Yeah. Or you're going to get just like, some white bread or something kind of thrown on there. And that's kind of what the whole craft barbecue movement is about, is like paying attention to every single thing on the plate, making the pickles, making the bread, really pumping up all the seasoning and flavors and freshness on the sides, and making it a full experience.
So in general, if someone, like, is it do like barbecue chefs get angry when people douse their meat in sauce? Is that like a sin?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say people do. I don't know.
It's like covering pizza and ranch.
After the sale is made, man, I don't care how you eat it.
Okay, fair enough.
Just as long as you enjoy it, and if you leave 5 stars, always 5 stars, only 5 stars.
Yeah, hey, I'm the same way. Like, 5-star podcast, only 5 stars. Put 4 stars on someone else. If it's 4 stars, give it to the other podcast.
That's right.
That's funny. Okay, so what makes a good sauce? Like, how should the sauce complement the beef? Like when you're trying to balance that, what is it that you're trying to do?
You said it, balance.
Yeah.
So when I was trying to make barbecue sauces for this new restaurant, I was like, all right, I'll make a sweet sauce, I'll make a tangy sauce, I'll make a spicy sauce. And I was like, all these are missing something. And I put them together, and I was like, this is the sauce, because it's sweet, it's tangy, it's spicy, it has everything. The only thing that was really missing was like some nice color and some depth and earthiness. Mm-hmm. So I added some beet juice, which made it like nice and bright purple, and then kind of brought in this earthiness too. And that's our signature sauce, beef barbecue sauce.
Now, what about wood? Like, what is there like a standard wood that people should use? And like I know, like, depending on where you live, you're probably going to have different trees.
Yeah.
But how does that affect the flavor? And like, how important is the wood, or is it not that important?
It's extremely important. It's also tied to regionality.
Yeah.
Central Texas is a big post oak area. That's what we use. That's what I've always used for barbecue. That's what we put in the offsets and in the burn barrel to create coals. The only other thing that I would possibly use might be pecan, but even that can be a little bit strong on the smokiness. I don't like to put any other wood in the fireboxes because your smoker will start to smell and taste like that other wood. Mm. Like when we were at Cosmic in the food truck, they would burn cedar in their like fire pits just to have, because it's a big outdoor area. And I would kind of like catch a whiff of it and think somebody accidentally like put a cedar log in the firebox, and I would be like freaking out for a second. But
were you gonna like strangle?
Yeah. But I like.
How do you get that out? You gotta like hose it down. What do you do?
I mean, luckily it never happened. So.
Okay, good. But if it did happen,
like
after you bury the body, what do you do? Yeah. What do you do to get rid of the smell?
Probably just pull the log out. And open all the doors. I have no idea, honestly. Yeah. Thank God it never happened. No, we. Post oak is what we use. I think it has the best flavor. It's pretty mild. As far as, I mean, it's your fuel source, so it needs to be seasoned correctly. It needs to not be all like rotted. Like you can tell when you pick up a log if it feels really heavy, if it feels really dense, then it's going to be like waterlogged. It's like freshly cut. It hasn't dried out or cured enough. Hasn't lost enough moisture. So if you put it on the fire, it's going to hiss and it's going to sizzle and it's going to take a really long time to catch, and it's going to put off a bunch of dirty smoke. The opposite way, if you have a log that's been sitting there for years and years and all the moisture's gone out of it, you'll put it on your fire and it'll go up immediately and you'll get almost no smoke and you'll spike your temperature.
Right now, the Michelin guy just came out, and congratulations again. I can't congratulate you enough.
Thank you.
On being one of the first restaurants ever.
Yeah.
What was it, 4?
It was 4.
4 restaurants to ever receive a Michelin star doing barbecue.
Barbecue.
So, that's historic.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Besides you and 3 others, no one else could ever say that.
Exactly.
So that's huge. How has that impacted you, your team, and also the business?
It was a big morale boost for everybody. We really thought that we, had something special, but we never thought in a million years that we would get a Michelin star. I saw places like Moose and Heritage in California get Bib Gourmands, and I was like, okay, that's kind of probably where we can land. That's what we can hope for, with them coming to town. But I never ever expected that to happen. It has been. To say it's been a boom for sales is a gross understatement. It changed everything. We are very busy all the time now. Some of these days we're serving like over 1,000 people a day.
Shit.
Which is just insane. There's and all these other barbecue restaurants that have Michelin stars or not are open, just a few hours. They're open for lunch. We're open like all day long. And there's a constant line. Sometimes it's overwhelming. It is really, really amazing to see everybody coming out.
Yeah.
Nobody's really kind of like sticking their nose up at it. Nobody's kind of been like, oh, this is not Michelin quality. Like they kind of get it. They know the score. They know that it's just like a high quality experience for a barbecue restaurant, and it's not like white tablecloth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's changed everything.
And why do you think this is so important, though? Like, why is barbecue right now? Like, why is it having its moment now? Like, why didn't it have its moment 15 years ago? Like, what's so important about barbecue today?
Mm-hmm. I think the moment started 15 years ago. It kind of started not too far from here with Aaron Franklin. He's the kind of one who kicked everything off. And then everybody else has been kind of following in his footsteps.
Mm-hmm. What did he do that? Besides like running out and having to decide to go somewhere else.
He paid attention to the details, man. That's kind of what was exciting to me about getting into barbecue to begin with, is I saw a wide open market because nobody was taking it seriously until him. Nobody really tried to achieve making it excellent until he did. And then that kicked everything off. That's what the barbecue boom is about, is people just taking a chef's approach or taking a detailed eye or just making it a craft product.
Yeah, and you're right, because when I first moved to Austin, Aaron was just blowing up, and I remember waiting in line forever to get barbecued multiple times, right? And it was always excellent.
Yeah.
Here's a funny story. It's not that funny, but I find it funny. Because I was a chef, and we had this restaurant, and we wanted to do something with brisket for brunch.
Yep.
And so the guys from Pecan Lodge in Dallas, right? So I would go to them and hey, let me have some brisket, whatever, and I would buy brisket from them. I'd shred it, I'd put in the potatoes or whatever, right, for brunch. And it was crazy because I ate their brisket probably every day for a year. Mm-hmm. That's all I ate. I didn't really think about it. I just ate their brisket every day for years. Just that's what we have for lunch. We have brisket left over. Great, we're going to eat that. And someone asked me, can you tell the difference between good and bad barbecue? And I remember nah, it's kind of, it all tastes like brisket. Mm-hmm. And then I had other barbecue, and I was like, oh shit, it's not all the same.
Yeah.
It dawned on me. And the only reason I knew this because I had good I had good barbecue every day, and I took it for granted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when we were doing R&D, we rented a house right up the street from here, and La Barbecue was up the street. Mm-hmm. So every day we'd go get La Barbecue for lunch, and it's like 1 Michelin star barbecue every day. It's like I only had good barbecue. I didn't know bad barbecue existed. You know what I mean? So it wasn't. So someone's like, oh, you know, I'm not going to call the place out. Like, oh, just get barbecue from here. I was like, yeah. And then I tried like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Like I understand. Like everyone's like, no. And I was like, no. You don't understand. If you eat it every day and you know what it's supposed to taste like, you know when it's wrong. Or you know when it's not good.
It's just like any other food, man. I mean, we're talking about seasoning. We're talking about flavor. We're talking about, you know, cooking appropriately to tenderness and doneness. Like, it's nothing out of the realm that any chef does on a daily basis. The only difference is that you're, like, working with a live fire.
Yeah, but I think the skills are a little bit more complicated than you just made it sound.
Well, okay, maybe if you know how to deal with roasts, like large roasts, you can apply that to barbecue.
We just open up like an Alto Sham and close it, like set the temp, and come back 8 hours later and the prime ribs ready. Like that's all we did. We didn't fuck with it too much.
Yeah, but like there's still, you know, even if you. What if you put that prime rib in there and it wasn't trimmed or seasoned correctly? Then it's still not going to be, you know, it's the same thing.
Yeah, the thing that you do specifically with barbecue, but you know, calling out some of the other great chefs that are doing barbecue as well is like it's just there's like I look at like Jiro from Jiro Dreams. Like I look at you, and it's like the same thing. Like
I don't know about that.
Well, no, but that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. It's like just so much discipline on this one thing that's just excellent, and it's like, look, you might think you're going to watch a master class on how to do barbecue, but I promise you it's not going to be as good as Aaron Franklin's when it's done. Like you could watch that all day long. You're not going to get it.
Yeah.
Like I'm a chef, and I remember I was doing a barbecue program for this place, and I was like really fucking proud of it. And then like someone that was also helping me consult who knew barbecue, they're like, this is shit. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, no, you missed it. Like there's so much that I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that. Like, oh, the wood, and oh, the temperature was too high, and you know, he's using terms that I'm just not familiar with, like the jargons, like, oh, you know, the stall is, like, what the fuck's the stall? Like the bathroom? Like, what are you talking about? But it's like, there's so much detail that like when you're so laser focused on that, it's exceptional.
Yeah.
Just like anything, right?
I mean, yeah, kind of. It's hard to get right. It's pretty easy to mess up.
What are some of the like the most common mistakes that people make with barbecue?
Man, everything. There's
like you're giving everyone advice, like stop fucking up your barbecue,
especially if you're talking about brisket.
Like stop doing this.
You can make a mistake through every single step of the process that can make the end result garbage.
What are like some of the most frequent?
The things I see most are just like a bad trim. Bad trim is not going to cook correctly. You're not going to have the right fat cap if you don't like trim it down, and then you put all this work in and cook it and have all this wood and all pepper's expensive. All this pepper, and then like actually rest it, and then when you slice into it, the fat cap is this big and it's inedible. It's gross.
Yeah.
So like, got to trim it right. You have to season it right. You get one chance to season it, and you can't season the interior of it because you're not brining a brisket unless you're making pastrami. So you got to season it extremely heavily on the outside, probably way more than you think you're going to need. Then you got to cook it, and then cooking the thing is its own entire like struggle because you're working the fire, you're working with the elements outside. The wood is never exactly the same. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to probably rotate them around, and then you have to rest it. And then you can still do all that correctly and then like cut it with a messed up knife or cut it in the wrong direction. So there's at every single step of the process, you can mess something up.
Mm. So we can't do necessarily the visual if people are listening, but what is the right way to cut a brisket?
So basically, if you have it horizontal in front of you, pretty much directly in half. That's going to separate the fatty and the lean side. Uh-huh. And then the lean side you will cut parallel to your first cut in about thickness of a number 2 pencil, about that thick. Mm-hmm. And then you will cut the fatty side perpendicular to your first cut, a little bit thicker, about the thickness of like one of those thick pencils.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a preference?
Fatty or lean?
Yeah.
I mean,
Like if you're just eating for yourself.
I usually like to eat like half a slice of lean brisket.
Just a half a slice?
Yeah, half a slice of lean brisket. Like to try it every day to see the tenderness, to see the salinity, to see just the smoke level, the juiciness, just to kind of like check it out.
Yeah.
That's what I eat at the restaurant.
I'm sure this has happened because it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do when it's wrong? Like, and there's no
Yeah.
saving it. Like, when you've already cooked this brisket,
Yeah.
is it just staff meal? What do you?
Chopped beef.
Chopped beef,
Yeah,
yeah.
you just make chopped beef. You just chop it up, throw a little sauce on it, and then it's sandwiches.
Yeah.
So it's still sellable. And even if you cook a brisket perfectly, not every slice of it is sellable.
Yeah.
Like if you probably get 5 or 6 slices on a fatty side of a brisket before you get to the end, where there's like the fat is too much, so that little chunk of it, like probably a quarter to a third of your entire fatty side is going to be just chopped beef.
You do steak night.
Yes.
I want to ask you about that. So
Yeah.
for people listening, can you explain kind of what steak night is?
Yeah. So we, the goal was always to be a whole animal barbecue restaurant. So we've been doing that for years and years with the pigs. And then as soon as we got into the restaurant and started bringing in quarters of beef and butchering them, we saw and cut and tasted these amazing, huge steaks, like 3 pounds thick. And they were just too good for the barbecue line. Like I was looking at it and I was like, this just needs to be like served. Like we need service for this. So we started doing reservation-based steaks, like for groups. It's not like you go and you order a steak and you would order a steak. It's like, this is the 3 pound steak for like 4 people. It comes with a pit tour. You can order anything else off the menu. You don't have to wait in the line. You get table service. So that's pretty much it.
And so the reason I ask is because we just talked about it, but I have 2 distinct evolution jumps that I've seen with barbecue. So we talk about Aaron Franklin, really putting barbecue on the map, putting Austin on the map with what he's done, and he's incredible. He deserves all the accolades. And then now you have this secondary evolutionary jump, kind of with what you're doing. Michelin's getting involved. What's next? Like, where is barbecue headed next? Like, okay, so there was this, now there's this. What's the next big evolution of barbecue?
I think I kind of look at the craft beer industry to kind of take notes from that. I think we're going to see like the nichification of barbecue. So you'll start to see not just a barbecue place, but it's like this is a Mexican barbecue place. This is a Thai barbecue place. This is a fine dining barbecue place. This is a barbecue burger place. And then they're also going to be like, this is just a restaurant, but they have a smoker.
Yeah.
So like I think those are the 2 things that you'll see. Like more kind of like specific culture driven, chef driven, like idea that's not just straight up barbecue, fastball down the middle, but also you'll see other people kind of dipping their toe, and you'll see like a little bit of influences on menus that are not traditionally barbecue.
Yeah, interesting. So you think at a certain point someone's going to be like, let's open up a white tablecloth fine dining barbecue place? Like, do you think that's...
Yeah.
How would you pull it off? Just curious. Like, if this is just an exercise in,
I don't want to reveal all my secrets, Andre.
No. But like if someone's listening, it's like, hey, I got $1 million, a couple billion to throw around. Like, let me put into your fine dining.
Yeah.
But what would you do? Like, how would you pull that off?
So we always talk about barbecue as a method, not a menu. I think I would take the reverse approach. I'd take like the menu approach, and it would be like probably a coursed out. I don't want to say omakase because it's like an overused thing, but it would be like a cool counter where you're seeing people slice in front of you, and it could be the traditional barbecue menu, but just reimagined into like kind of smaller, more put together, more intentional dishes.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is a pork rib, but it's butchered in house. It is like maybe cured a little bit. Maybe it has like really nice garnish up on top, and it's just like packed with flavor, but it's like a single rib. And you go down the entire thing. You have your lean brisket, and maybe that's a tartare. You have your fatty brisket, and maybe that's a burn end. And it's all like coursed out. You have your potato salad, but it's just like, very well prepared potato salad.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've been thinking about food a lot lately, and I've probably talked about it. I don't know if I've talked about it on any podcasts that are out now, but I've talked about it with a lot of chefs behind the scenes. when I was at your place the other day, I was talking with Jacob about it a lot. It's like, I don't know where food is going.
Yeah.
And you know, kind of to get a little bit off script, but I look at food and it's, I mean, quite literally this morning, I woke up at like 3 a.m. because I was thinking about this. Like it's bothering me. I've been up since 3 thinking about where food is going, because I don't know. But I do see a problem. Mm-hmm. And the problem I see with food, and I'm not calling anyone out or you're taking shots at anyone, but what I do notice is that there's like a formula that a lot of chefs follow to like the Instagram social media formula. So I'm going to cook like this because it gets clicks and likes and hearts and things like that. So I'm going to make my food look like this. Mm-hmm. And I know that if I serve a white sauce with a broken green oil, it's going to get a lot of likes. You know what I mean? Like there's that. Yep. And then there's the people that also work in the fine dining world. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, we got to have a tart and we got to have a this. And it's like, there's a certain checklist, right? Yeah. I have a friend, that has it all planned out. I mean, when I was still a chef, I mean, I had a intense chart of like, okay, all 5-star restaurants, all 3-star restaurants have a tasting menu. They have this many courses. Like I fucking broke it down. Like, like I was geeked out about it. But the problem is like it all starts to look the same. Yeah. And so I've been thinking about this, and I was like, I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I was like, because as my thoughts are evolving on it, it's like, Marco Pierre White kind of had it figured out. He gave his stars back, and he's like, Mother Nature's the true artist, and I'm just going to cook. You know, it's not about this Michelin stuff, right? And I started thinking, like, what if you were just cooking, like you're just cooking without the pressure of awards, and without the pressure of your peers, and without the pressure of social media? What would your food look like? Yeah. And I don't think it would look like what we see today. Like if you didn't have those pressures, just cooking like with the one goal of I just want it to be good. Like what would it look like? Yeah. And I'm thinking about that. I don't have an answer. Yeah. But it's like a mental exercise that's been keeping me up at night.
I mean, that's a really interesting way to kind of think about it, because I mean, I think that you are going to have people like if you're talking about where food is going, I think that it's, first of all, it's going wherever we take it. Right. I don't think that anybody's really going to reinvent the wheel as far as anything is going when you're talking about that. But I was just listening to your last episode with Tracy and Arjov. Yeah. And they inspire me a lot because there's nothing crazy like special about what they're doing. They just execute at a high level. Yeah. The food is incredible. The hospitality is incredible. There's nothing like there's no like crazy techniques going on there. It's just like everything is perfect. It's just like you were describing her food. It was like somebody, I think you said like somebody you love giving you a big hug. Yeah. That is where food is always going to kind of come back to home, like come back to center there, I think. And regardless of what any award or accolade or anything like that, I think that if you cook with honesty, if you cook with intention, if you cook with love, then that's where it's going to go. Yeah.
Well, that comes through with your food a lot too. A lot, actually. And I think what I respect, I mean, we could talk about the sides all day long, but it's like the amount of commitment that you put into this to make it different. And I don't think it'd be talked about enough, the fact that you got this Michelin star. Like what that really means. It really means that you're doing something exceptional. Like just the fact that it's on Michelin's radar, it's the first one ever, but you're changing the game. Like this is a moment. Yeah. Like that people are going to look back and say, like, you're going to be able to pinpoint to, was it November 2024? We're going to look back at November 2024 and say that's when everything changed.
I mean, I would hope so. Barbecue has just been seemingly so rigid, but in reality, not. Like everybody thinks that the definition of barbecue has always been the same and will always be the same, and they just have like a very narrow view of what it is supposed to be. Yeah. And to me, it is. I've always just asked, why not? Why? Like that was the kind of thing that led me to this restaurant, this career, this life. I was like, why is everybody doing this the same? Why does everybody have the same thing on their menu? Why is everybody cooking the exact same thing the exact same way?
Right.
Like imagine if every just normal restaurant like was doing that. That'd be crazy.
Right.
If every restaurant had the exact same menu.
In a way, they do.
Yeah, but like still, I mean, but there's flourishes.
There's flourishes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's salads, there's sandwiches, there's the burgers, but it's not every single place has the exact same thing. Even if every place has a burger, everybody's doing it a little bit differently.
Yeah. It's something that's keeping me up at night because I'm like, going back to my point is, if all the food kind of looks like this on social media and all the high-end food kind of looks like this and all the restaurants kind of look like this, I don't know what's next, but I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to look like any of that.
Yeah.
Kind of like when Renee came out.
Oh, yeah.
Or Ferran or Thomas Keller or any of these greats. When they came out, I was like, oh, that's different. And I haven't seen anything different. You're different in your world. And I think what you did is exactly what I'm talking about. You caught the attention of like, oh, that's different.
That was always the intention, is to be different. And sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes it's just like if we took a wrong turn on that one, let's kind of pull back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the point, is just to be a little bit different.
Did you ever feel like we ain't gonna make it?
No, but no, but my business partner definitely did.
Yeah.
I mean, Scheuer is the one who's like very much business minded, involved in all the numbers and everything, and I'm the creative. I cook. I am kind of the driving force in that direction. And so it does not help me to like think that we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make me more. I can only think about like the positive things that are going to happen when we do. But it is good to have somebody who's like trenched in reality.
Yeah.
who's like really like looking at the numbers and make sure we can stay open.
Who impresses you right now?
I mean, honestly, the entire Austin community I'm really, really impressed with. I've always been a huge fan of Jesse Griffiths. He's the person who I look up to most in this industry, in this city. Just like he's a killer.
Yeah. Is there anyone that, like, if you were going to go eat barbecue that wasn't yours, am I going to fuck you up by asking you this question out of Austin?
No.
So like, if you had to go somewhere, it's like, okay, I'm going to go eat barbecue. That's not mine. Where are you going to go? And what are you going to order?
Yeah, I usually like to go. So I do still love to eat barbecue. That's kind of a nice advantage of having a little bit of a different menu, is that I can go to other barbecue places and still enjoy ribs and potato salad and sausage and all this other stuff. So I really like going to Kreitz Market. That's my favorite old school joint in Lockhart. I love the sausage there. Yeah. I love the aesthetic there. I love the old school vibes there. I love the kind of like history that's in that building. That's probably one of my favorite places.
Yeah. And I got to ask you, because I mean, I feel like you're always working. What do you do to unwind? Like, how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, I try to exercise. I try to play golf. I try to go fishing, just enjoy the outdoors. Austin's such a great place to enjoy the outdoors, so I try to take it in as much as I can.
Are you good at golf?
No, I'm very bad at golf, but I don't need to be good to enjoy it.
Yeah, well, I've only played golf once, and I'm ultra competitive.
Yeah.
And I played it, and like everyone beat me. I was like, I'm never fucking playing this game again.
If you can just like learn how to swing, then you can have a great time out there. Like, you don't have to. I'm so bad at it. I don't really ever keep score. I just like going out there and whacking it around and having a hot dog and a couple beers and just having a good time.
Yeah. What else do you do? Like, what do you do for yourself, like to make sure that your mental health is good, to make sure that you can disconnect, or are you always connected?
Well, I mean, I try to spend time with my family, my wife and daughter. I just try to hang out with them as much as possible. My parents live in town. I try to hang out with them as much as possible. I try to see my friends. Like, nothing crazy special. I work a lot. I am at the restaurant a lot. We have goals that we want to achieve at the restaurant, and we've only been open a little over a year, so I still kind of feel like I need to be there as much as I can to just like put eyes on everything, make sure everything tastes good, make sure that the staff feels like they are supported as much as possible. So I can see, like, I think what's the new Texas monthly list comes out in May.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there, but I'll probably try to take a little bit of time off after that. We'll see.
Did you see an influx of staff, people wanting to work for you once, with all the recent success?
A little bit, not crazy. We, I think when we opened the restaurant from the food truck, that we got a lot of people who wanted to work with us, and we had a big hiring sweep, and we have kept almost every one of them.
That's good.
Yeah.
What do you do? I mean, like, what's your method to create a great workplace culture to make sure that you have low turnover?
It's, I mean, I kind of hate to say I hate to say it's like familial, but it is. I really like checking up on I really care about everybody who works in our restaurant. I like checking up on them. I like just making sure that they have everything that they need to be successful, whether that is equipment, pay, time off, like encouragement, anything that they need. Because I just want them to know that I'm there for them, because they're there for me more often than I am for them. Like they're there for me 40 hours a week at least, doing all the work at a restaurant with my name on it. So they need to know that I have their back at all times. If
you were going to hire someone, what are you looking for on a resume? I mean, do you ever hire anyone with zero experience?
Oh yeah. But I think the main thing is you got to be really nice. You got to be hospitable. You got to be driven.
You got to like barbecue.
You got to like barbecue. And I mean, that's pretty much it. You just got to work hard, be nice, like barbecue.
Yeah.
You got to be able to give good hospitality.
Yeah. It's funny. Like a lot of people will say, I'm working in this restaurant, but I really want to open this. Like, well, then go work in that restaurant. Like, I say this all the time. If you want to be the best 3 Michelin star chef, then go work in a 3 Michelin star restaurant. If you want to be the chef of a cruise ship, go work in a cruise ship. If you want to be the best barbecue chef, go work under the best barbecue chef.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people, so anyone listening, this is my advice to you, is like, do not be afraid, because you're not ready today. You're also not going to be ready when you think you're ready in a year from now when you're getting ready. Like, you don't know what you don't know. Just go in there and start getting ready now.
Nobody's ever ready. Just jump in the pool.
Yeah, just jump in. Learn now. Save yourself some time. Go work for the best in the type of restaurant that you want to eventually be running, and learn from the people that are really good at it.
100%.
Yeah. What does the training program look like? Like, when someone starts working for you, where do you start them?
That depends on what they are being hired for. We kind of have a few main areas of the restaurant. We have the barbecue line, which is service focused, but also like culinary focused too. You're scooping sides, you're cutting meat, but you're also talking to guests and taking their order and making sure the plates look nice and are wiped down. So you kind of have to have a varied set of skills for the barbecue line.
Yeah.
If you're in the kitchen, you'll start on, just like the main station there. You'll be making the burgers, you'll be making the chopped cheese, the onion rings. We have kind of this dinner menu where we have the wood fire grill. And if you're on the pits, then you will train to work all of the pits. There's no specific training process other than just you'll start and you'll learn everything, and then eventually you will know everything.
Yeah.
It's just it takes a long time to learn it all, but there's no you learn this on day 1 and this on day 2. It's more of just all right, well, you're in it now.
Yeah, I love the vibe of your spot.
Thanks.
But I was thinking about this because you didn't start as in barbecue, you worked in kitchens in New York.
Correct.
So is there a big cultural difference in the kitchen setting? The reason I ask is you look so tan all the time. Everyone looks so happy there.
Well, that's my half Mexican roots coming out. You're asking if there's a difference culturally in the barbecue kitchen versus any other kitchen or fine dining kitchen.
When you're working in one type of kitchen, you go to ultra high end 3 Michelin star fine dining, it's we chef, and shake hands and hold your and you in the casual, it's throwing towels and banging pots and pans. What is the kitchen culture like? And because you've seen it all.
Yeah, I would say it's kind of in the middle there. We still, we do call each other chef, but half the time it's kind of in a facetious, joking way. And then we I don't know, my daughter will come in and I'll be like, "Hey, Chef Frankie." But we also are professional and we take our job seriously. We try not to take ourselves seriously, but we take our job and the food and the task seriously. So it's a professional setting, but also we're wearing shorts, you know?
Yeah.
It's a denim apron, it's a t-shirt, and we're getting sweaty out in the pits, and it's casual, but it's executed at a high level. That's the point of barbecue, the way
It's
that we
fun.
do it. That's the point of our restaurant. That's what I like, is like that very high level of food, but in a casual setting.
So I know you're working on something. You're working on a
Yes.
book, right?
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's called New School Barbecue. It's coming out next spring from Abrams Books. I wrote it with Paula Forbes, who's a great friend and a cookbook expert and a great writer. And photos all came out amazing, done by Matt Taylor Gross. It is basically...
How long did it take you to do this, and when did you start?
The cookbook process is so intense, dude. I thought that people just like put these things out like it was nothing, and
Yeah.
it's every single step of the process. I'm just like, this is so much more work than I thought it would be.
Was it your initial idea to do the cookbook?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
Someone came to you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I've wanted to do it for a long time.
Okay.
I love cookbooks. I like all parts of this entire industry. I
Yes.
love food TV. I love cookbooks. I love all this stuff. So, and I really like teaching people too. So I think that's like part of why I wanted to do the book. And I wanted to kind of like put a period on the end of the sentence of just, people ask me all the time, how do you do the cheeks? How do you do the flat iron? How do you do how do you do all this stuff? And we have some YouTube videos and stuff, but I really wanted to just like put it out there like in the most perfect way possible. So that's the idea with the book. It's called New School Barbecue. It has the foil boat method in there. It has our cheeks recipe in there. It has a whole bunch of stuff in there. It took a long time to do the proposal, which is basically like you write a chapter and you write the table of contents and you kind of like write something. It's like a pitch deck that you sell to publishers.
Yeah.
And then
And you did this with your co-writer,
yes,
co-author, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then once it's sold, it takes a year to write the thing. And then the photo shoot was probably the most stressful part of it, because you have to organize everybody, which I'm very bad at, just like being an organized person. You have to organize everybody. You have to like make sure that you're capturing every single shot. And it's like, we had to do 100 recipes like in 8 days, and every single shot has to be lit and like propped and dressed, and it's all crazy.
Yeah. The food's getting cold and it's
yeah.
getting dry, and
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter if food's cold in a photo.
no, but sometimes you can see it, right? Sometimes
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
see the sauce is a little
Yeah,
has a skin on it,
Yeah,
or
like
whatever, right? Yeah.
oxidization on the brisket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had to like cut it quickly. But then it took a whole year to write the book. It was a 10-day photo shoot, and now we are in the editing process and design process, and that's going to take about 6 months. And then they got to send it to the printer, and for that to come back, it's going to take about 6 months. So it's like a 2.5, 3-year project.
Wow.
It's intense.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, I've written books, but I publish I
Yeah.
publish fast.
Yeah.
Fuck, I write a book today. I'll have it out next week. But it's just me, like, edit.
Yeah, and there's no photos.
Yeah, there's no photos, right?
And there's it's not like a design
Well, I'll
process.
put like a
to
photo.
it.
Like if I need a comic, I'll create it with AI
Yeah,
or something like
yeah.
that. Because initially, Fermin, right? So
Yeah.
Fermin was the whole inspiration behind me writing my first Chef's PSA book. But what I wanted to do, like, are you familiar with like what rubber hose style animation is?
No.
So like think like old Mickey Mouse
Yeah, yeah.
cartoons, like where the
Yeah. Where
Betty
the
Boop
arm-
stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that's rubber hose. It's like I wanted to do a cartoon book like that.
Yeah.
where like the chef's doing bad habits.
Yeah,
carrying
yeah.
A bunch of onions in their apron or something like that. All these towels like a hula skirt. So like I wanted to do that, but I was like, I don't know how to do that. And now it's like with AI, like I could probably have a whole cartoon series by the end of the year.
Yeah.
with how quickly that AI text to video is going. But anyway, last couple of questions I want to ask you, Chef.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, congratulations on the book. I'm excited.
Thank you.
I hope that I get a copy soon.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely will.
I'm super excited. I'm definitely a fan of what you're doing. But
Thank you.
if you had a Mount Rushmore
Mm-hmm.
out there of people that have inspired you, chefs, who's on it?
Wow. I think the first person who ever got me interested in food was Alton Brown. I would go straight from cartoons on Saturday morning to Good Eats, to the Food Network.
Okay.
So I'm going to put him up there. I would put Aaron Franklin up there. He'd done so much for the cuisine, for Austin, for barbecue. He's also a good friend.
Yeah.
Who else would I put
Huge
up
respect
there?
for Aaron Franklin.
He's just a really cool. Beyond everything he's done, he's a cool guy and a nice guy and just a great person.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll put Jesse up there just for. I think I'd probably put Jesse and Bryce up there.
Yeah.
Just because they're
For people that are listening, Bryce Gilmore,
and Jesse Griffiths, just because they're like the local people, and that's what's so important to me is locality. I'm from Austin. I think that we have some of the best food here. I think that we have some of the best produce, some of the best meat, some of the best agriculture. So I'm a big Austin, Texas guy.
Yeah. For Austin, for people that are not familiar with it, it's like not what you expect when you get here. The food scene, like I'll have someone in from out of town, like, I didn't expect Austin to be like this. Like, Austin's downtown is more alive than a lot of cities.
Oh yeah.
The food scene is deep. There's a lot of people moving here. There's a lot to do. It's not what people expect. And by the way, for people that don't know, it's also the podcast capital of the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm here. That's why.
Yeah.
5 stars. If you had a chef's PSA out there, what would it be?
I think I would say that it is important to be different. It's important to differentiate yourself.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of always been my thing in the barbecue space is to be just a little bit different. I love serving this community. This community in itself is just a different type of place. It's a more relaxed place. It's Austin, Texas. And I think that my food reflects that.
Yeah.
Kind of just what I was saying of like elevated food, casual atmosphere. That's kind of what I'm all about.
Well, awesome, Chef. You have a lot going on. Book, YouTube channel, restaurant, Michelin star. Where can people find you?
Mostly on Instagram, Evan LeRoy BBQ, at LeRoy and Lewis also on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. Definitely get the book next year, New School Barbecue.
Yeah. Congratulations on everything, man. Good
Thank
to
you.
see
Thank you.
again.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you want to support Chef's PSA, here's some things that you can do. You can go to chefspsa.com where you get all the books that I've published, including some free ebooks. You could go to the shop.chefspsa.com and get yourself some hoodies, some hats, some t-shirts, and support the show. If you want early access to episodes, you could become a premium subscriber on Spotify and Substack and get the episode before anyone else. Get Chef Phrase. And of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or anywhere else, make sure you leave 5 stars, nothing less than 5 stars. It's a 5-star podcast. We'll see you next week at the porno meeting.
No Andre in the kitchen, mixing, dropping chef knowledge, no fiction, stirring up the beats, heating up the session. Listen close, class is in session.